This is your Neepawa Town Council Debrief for the May the 7th, 2024 meeting. This week, the meeting covers a plethora of projects from Public Works, especially covering road and sidewalk issues, as well as a public hearing that drew some concerns. Jumping right into that public hearing, there were no objections to the variation application itself, but Adrian DeGroot, who lives in the area, brought forward a concern about the lack of an easement agreement on his property from Manitoba Hydro, which uses it to service and maintain power for residences in the area. The variation was ultimately passed, but Council took note of the concerns and may help investigate further.
Be it resolved that we do now open this public hearing at 7:05 to hear representation to variation application 012024 of Marvin and Divine Peely, respecting lots B and C, plan 57056 at 700 Park Lake Drive. Moved by Councillor Nadeau, seconded by Councillor Gerard. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, Jeff, are you speaking to this?
Yeah, so this is application V01-2024-N. The owner of the applicant is Marvin and Divine Peely. The proposal it's a variation, and there's two parts. Number one is to reduce the required site width for proposed lot 1 from the required 150 feet to the proposed 102.69 feet. And number two is to reduce the required site width for proposed lot 2 from the required 150 feet to the proposed 85.69 feet. And this is both within the RR2 residential rural zone. And it is affecting 700 Park Lake Drive, specifically lots B and C, plan 57056. And the reason in support of this application is to satisfy the subdivision requirements to sever a 3.85 acre parcel from this noted property. Mostly the site width is because of the access is on the turning bulb there. So.
Okay, any questions?
Do you have the size of each of the new parcels?
I do.
2.85 was one, correct?
Yeah. And the other one?
Find the application here.
That's in the subdivision file, Jeff.
Yeah, I got that here. Ooh, that's small. So lot 1, which will be the northern lot, would be 5.39 acres, and proposal is lot 2, which is I guess, more southern, and that's the 3.85 acre parcel.
Thank you.
I got a map there, if anybody wants to see it, this is.
Yeah, I think we all reviewed that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff. And so understanding there would be two separate fields, one on each property.
Correct, that was one of the requirements in the subdivision as well, that they both have approved waste management systems, yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Anyone else here speaking for or against? Mr. DeGroot, did you want to come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Your Worship, members of the Variation Board. My name is Adrian DeGroot, and I represent our family, who is the present owners of property. The concern that I have is not necessarily speaking in favor or against. It's the same concern that I expressed to the Planning District Board a number of years ago when the plan of subdivision to subdivide the entire parcels of land into a number of different lots. One of the lots being this particular one, and some of the other ones which are still either for sale or to be sold. The concern that I have is that the service, and I want this for the record, and it's not necessarily to sway the variation board as to their decision at the end of the day, but I wanted to make sure that it's part of the record of concern that as property owners that have Manitoba Hydro lines which services that particular subdivision at this present time. Not only does it service the subdivision, also it services the public property known as the bird sanctuary or Rotary Park area. I brought this to the attention of Manitoba Hydro over a number of times, and also as part of the record of the subdivision, that there is no grant of easement to our property, private property, by Manitoba Hydro. Consequently, for any service upgrades, repairs, things like that, there is no grant of easement. I have brought this to the attention of Manitoba Hydro in a bit of a, not necessarily in a legal sense, but bringing it to their attention that something like this is required. The answer I got a couple of times, well, you bought it that way, so you must have agreed to it. Fine, that's okay. Maybe you grandfathered some of these things in. However, we own property that had a similar situation for almost 37 years. 37 years, finally, Manitoba Hydro came to ourselves as property owners to develop a legal document called the Grant of Easement. Reference number 001464, signed by the Vice President of Operations for Manitoba Hydro, and it's a legal document which describes the grant of easement onto the property to maintain have access to a hydro pole. So currently we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hydro poles sitting on our property servicing this particular subdivision. So if the prospective owners, I understand what they're doing. I met with Mr. Braun regarding this particular application. I respect what they're trying to do with family, and which is great. However, if they wanted to upgrade the line, they need a grant of easement. I thought I had them by the short ones. When we had the flood in 2020, and there was significant erosion on one of the poles. Whether it was by chance or by design, the pole was replaced when we were on vacation. I questioned Hydro as to what gave them the right to go onto the property to stabilize that pole. Well, they talked to the person that leased the hay cutting. I said, that person does not have the legal authority to speak on our behalf. He leases the property to cut hay, to keep it from, keep it clean, and also fire hazards and, things like that for adjacent property, and that's why it's leased. It's not leased because we need the $460 odd, but it's leased because it keeps it clean for Park Lake Road. So therefore, I wanted to bring the board attention to this potential issue and potential problem. Many of you know that we are in the final stages of owning that property. I have contacted the brokerage and the legal authority to make sure that, this could be their potential problem as landowners as well. They have shared their vision for that property. It's consistent with ours to keep it as in a natural state as much as possible, even to the tree planting program, which I hear is close to happening. And, so it might be frivolous in a sense, but it's not when you start putting three-phase lines in and you start putting in and servicing a number of potential lots on that side of the headwaters to the White Mud River.
In council reports, we hear about the success of the recent job fair, which saw 20 businesses and post-secondary institutions and 64 job seekers, with at least 12 hires as a result of the fair. Councillor Nadeau brought forward an initiative from the Brandon Library, where they did a preservation project for oral histories. The Neepawa Library, which along with Brandon is part of the Westman Regional Library, would be interested in doing something similar. He also promoted an upcoming celebration of Manitoba Trails Day on June 1st at Erickson on the Rossburn Subdivision Trail, which runs right down to Neepawa.
I'm reporting on behalf of Councillor Sisley and Councillor Pottinger. Only Councillor Sisley is actually at the meeting, but she's on video or audio there, so I'll do the report. The job fair had 20 businesses and post-secondary organizations set up at the Legion on April 25th. The event was attended by 64 job seekers with at least 12 hires from resulting from the event. Thank you to Neepawa Settlement and Westlake Employment for their partnership on another successful job fair. There are no applications currently for the storefront improvement program yet this year. Neepawa developed this program to assist businesses located within the town of Neepawa. The program is managed and administered by the Economic Development Office and provides funding for up to 50% of the eligible costs to a maximum of $5,000 per commercial property. The incentive is a reimbursement program and will be paid out upon the completion of the project after all criteria are met. Examples of things that can be updated include the exterior painting, lighting, windows, exterior doors, signage, and awning. So if anybody out there is thinking of a project, this spring, this summer, or even this fall, maybe speak to the Economic Development Officer, and actually Marilyn's here who gave this report rather than me. We welcome applications to this program. So.
Okay, well, I'll just toss out there. April 19th, met with the Provincial Municipal Justice Advisory Committee for a regular meeting. Some of the main topics were the officer worn body cameras, the RCMP contract review, and the new CSO Community Safety Officer program. And other than that, just several other regular board meetings. Councillor Nadeau.
It's been a busy couple of weeks since our last meeting, just to update the rest of council on some of the things. Way back in April 17th, our meeting was on the 16th, our last one. Had a Westlake employment meeting, and we were, making sure that the job fair was going to work out really well, and happy to note that it did, of course, as we already heard. Also on April 17th, a WMRL library meeting. Some interesting things to share with council. We discussed what they're finishing up right now in Brandon. They obtained a grant in order to do the oral histories, recording elders, recording some of the historians in the community of Brandon in order to take that piece of history and preserve it. And it's something that would be neat to see here in Neepawa done also. And I know we do a good job with a lot of our history, and we have a lot of groups in our community that do look after that, but that's something that maybe our library could look at doing. That brings me to April 23rd. We had a local area library committee meeting, and we were talking that we would be really interested in pursuing something like that. With NACTV also being in our community, they also help do this in a different way, but we can work symbiotically with each, and I think we can do some really good things to help preserve some of that history. And we think of library sometimes as only books, and now we're embracing new technologies where we can have everyone's oral histories turned into a transcript, which makes certain things that you're looking for easy to find, and sometimes just preserving some of those good memories of Neepawa as we move forward. April 24th, I was able to make it to the Habitat for Humanity presentation. It was really well attended and it went really well, so that's really nice to see. The job fair was really a good thing too. It was a nice to see how it continues to grow. I've been able to share something really exciting with Neepawa. Starting on May 13th, we're going to have a new vet starting in Neepawa. So that's really exciting for us to have 2 full-time veterinarians in our community. On May 6th, just yesterday, we had a Rossburn Subdivision Trail Association meeting. And we've got a few things to report back there. Just a reminder to users of our trail that you must yield to pedestrians. So if you're on an electric scooter, there's a little gray area there where you're not a motorized vehicle, but you can go on there with a scooter. However, you have to yield to pedestrians. Same thing if you're a skidoo. The Manitoba Trails Day is coming up, June 1st. The Minister of Environment and Climate will be there, Tracy Schmidt. Also, the MLA, Greg Nesbitt, will be there. It'll be at the Erickson Water Tower. It's the new rest stop area where there's going to be a beautiful barbecue. There's going to be greetings and cake. And I'll just show that to the camera for a second, just that little poster here. If you went on the RSTA Trails group, you can see the invitation. Everyone's invited. Everyone's walking from the Storybook Trail. It's about 4.5 kilometers in Erickson. That's at the Viking boat. It starts there. You can do a 4.5 kilometer walk to the water tower, which will give you access to the barbecue and all the special presentations. And really, it's just about celebrating this wonderful trail we have that goes right across Canada. And this is our little section here. The other thing I wanted to note too was October 26th is National, it's going to be our new Trails Talk Day. So that's something to keep on your calendar. And lots of exciting things happening all around, so thank you.
Councillor Gerard brought news that the county courthouse has passed an interim budget and is looking at what he calls modernizing funding within and for the facility. The Beautiful Plains County Courthouse is governed by the Beautiful Plains County Buildings Act of 1990, which stipulates that the courthouse is jointly under the care of the town of Neepawa, the municipalities of Rosedale, and the municipality of Langford, which became North Cypress Langford during amalgamation in 2015. Any changes must be made with the consent of the Minister of Rural Development, which is now in the portfolio of the Minister of Municipal and Northern Relations.
Yes, April 25th, the county courthouse, we had our meeting. This was a follow-up meeting to typically what would have been our annual meeting. On April 25th, we came together to pass our budget, and at that time, it became an interim budget. What we're seeing is that current partners within the facility just looking to modernize how the funding works within the facility, so we're going to be working through that going forward. We've reached out to the under the County Courthouse Act. It is managed by our Minister of Rural Area, which would be Minister Bushy, and he can oversee that. And what we're looking to do is we're looking just to see how those costs of the operation of that county courthouse are spread amongst the 3 partners. So what we have done, and you will have noticed, as for those of you that have looked through the financial plan and that we've actually passed an interim check amount for our rents going forward rather than our normal fees, is because that is largely what's going to be happening going forward. So there's some changes coming forward at the county courthouse, but nothing is closed as of yet. So yeah, that's what I can update on that one.
Now that we're into warmer weather, Manager of Operations Denise Kay says that things are progressing on the new membrane material at the wastewater treatment plant, and that the water expansion to the hospital is now delivering potable water that has passed testing, and they are proceeding with any corrections and changes that are needed. In what everyone wants to know about, Sakay says they are talking to contractors and equipment suppliers to work out how to tackle fixing all the roads, which would include not only patching but also drainage. In addition to that, he met with the active transportation consultants about making the town more walkable and bikeable, which in addition to getting people more active, would also reduce wear and tear and extend the life of our roads. Now that Park Lake has come back to life, Sakay says the contractors were already booked to complete rebuilding the paths, and they are just waiting for the weather to cooperate.
Thank you, Aaron. So, projects, a whole bunch of them are kind of still ongoing. We'll start with the wastewater treatment plant. The project's ongoing, it's starting to speed up again, as we can hopefully start getting the membrane material inside the giant MBDR tank, and start growing meat in there, because we need a little warmer weather to grow those little bugs, so it starts functioning as a proper sewage treatment plant. So like I said, those days, as the temperature goes up, that's all good news for us. As far as phase one of the water expansion project leading up to the hospital, we have potable water that passed the pressure test, so that main is live now. We met with the consultants, the Water Services Board, and the contractor this week. We went over the deficiencies and still pointed out and did a site tour actually of all the deficiencies, all the open cuts, any remediation work that has to happen, and corrective actions, anything that we didn't like, the contractor consultant didn't like. So they have their to-do list. We'll be following up with that, and there's definitely a level of expectation that they have to correct anything that's still withheld. So there's still a holdback on their funds. Summer staff started this week. They rolled in on Monday, and then as they become more available, because some of them are a lot of problems coming in, they'll just gradually be intermingled into with our regular staff at the cemetery and parks, and then receive appropriate training. We had a fun little visit from one of our consultants on Thursday, or what is that, Monday? Yes, yesterday. It's been a busy week already. They're the ones that provide us some active transportation information. So we have the opportunity to go through that, and we actually took the time to go and look around the community at where some of these pathways would be, so it really will help with the decisions. One, like you get to see if we're impacting a driveway, how are we impacting the boulevard? Are we gonna have to turn the street to one-way parking, or do we still maintain true direction traffic on there? So we're trying to make all the functionalities of this plan work. So they'll probably start developing a fee proposal for us and how and what phases we want to proceed with coming up in fall. So this would be like a budget 25 item. But it was really nice to physically go out there and see everything and just see how we can make it work. And residents may wonder why the heck we're worried about bikes and people walking, but if we've seen the state of our roads, the more people we have walking and riding a bicycle and using active transportation opposed to vehicle, it's really going to spread out the life of our roads. And then speaking of roads, I've been doing as much due diligence trying to figure out how the heck to patch them and fix them and do whatever we can there. So we've been in talk with staff, contractors, different equipment suppliers. So we're going through just a few different strategies. We're looking at different drainage projects and how to correct storm that's flowing down these streets to stop the damage that's being incurred to them. So there's a heck of a lot of work that's going into that. So hopefully I can provide some results here.
Great. Any questions?
Yes.
Yeah, I got actually just a couple. Saw a post on our town Facebook page that said the 6th of May we have construction crews doing some patching. That's follow-up from last year's work, correct?
That's follow-up, and then we also had some utility corrections, like we had some water breaks that occurred and some open cuts, and then we've had like a couple patches on Mountain Avenue we're going to correct. So some of your utility cuts, others were just full failure patches, so we hurried as quick as we can, try to get those on the docket. We'll compile another list of patches which will be tendered out as supplementary work after this.
Okay.
So this is just like I said, follow-up work, and then we threw a few add-ins on them real quick.
Okay.
They were priority patches.
Right.
So we haven't forgotten about some of the ugly.
Mhm.
We're just trying to get some priorities done real quick.
How long do you think they're going to be in this go-around?
Oh, man, I really hope they roll a paver in here next week.
Okay.
If weather is really good to them.
Okay.
Because they've done some stripping, and as long as they can stay ahead of the asphalt crew,
Right.
and the base crew, prep crew can get everything ready for them.
Mhm.
Yeah, so hopefully, really hoping, I'll keep calling them and being annoying, that next week or following week we can see some asphalt.
I know we're counting on you for that. Then the follow-up actually you touched on was with the active transport. With Park Lake and a lot of that project done, when will we see some of the paths that have started as far as they get finished off with some graveling and that on some of those paths?
So I've already booked contractors to get in there
Okay,
as soon as weather cooperates with us.
okay,
And we were actually, we hadn't looked at all those locations as well with our consultants here.
okay,
So yeah, it's kind of weather pending right now.
okay. So tentatively, would it be a June, July-ish thing we'd be looking at? Or
I'm hoping May-ish, because
Okay.
we have staff starting a water main renewal tomorrow.
Okay,
There's scheduled to start provided there's no rain. But yeah, we're mobilizing equipment. We're starting staff to really give it real quick as hard as we can on this item. Because like I said, I want them to hurry on these water project renewals. And then as we have staff maybe away, so June, July, August, I want them on street works, patching, repairing, doing as much as they can to make these streets back to a passable state.
revive them a little bit.
Yes.
Thanks.
Swimming pool deck.
So more recently, and this was to be done last year, we didn't get to it, we did zero entry to the pool. It helps us with our accessibility and trying to meet the legislation. When we completed though that zero entry to the pool, council has a picture on AllNet there that they can look at. We found there was like a 4-inch lip and even greater from the zero entry concrete down to the paving stones. So it clearly is not meeting accessibility legislation any longer, so what do we do? Long-range planning says we were going to do the whole deck in concrete at some point in time. So we thought, well, we either raise the paving stones, add some sand, which is a big project as well, or we just bite the bullet and proceed and put the concrete down. So we did get a quote for that, $17,474 with Chisel Construction. We did ask for invitational bidding. This was the only construction company that was able to do our project and do it right away, because we all know we want to open the pool here before long. So we're asking for your support to proceed with Chisel Construction to do this project for that amount of money. However, because we know our time is extremely short, the water plant staff thinks they can free themselves up partially or wholly to help at least get the paving stones out of there, which then Chisel is very prepared to reduce that rate. So the resolution kind of speaks for that. If we can support that, that would be great.
So timing wise, I think we're talking once it quits raining sort of thing?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, when we met with the contractor on site, they were able to squeeze it into their schedule, knowing when the pool deck had to be, or pool had to be open.
Right.
So we definitely went over all the dynamics of what we had to see for slope on the concrete to ensure that it's mobility friendly, and correct a lot of items that were just on our to-do list already there. There's so many trip hazards.
Right.
And we expanded the area just to kind of go all the way up to the new slide concrete that we've already completed last year. So really completing a major chunk of it, so we'll just leave the paving stones on the west side of the pool deck at this point left.
Right.
And
So just looking at the way that paving stone would come out, like would that new concrete be doweled into the hole?
I don't think we did any doweling because it was such a large slab. We were happy.
Okay.
But we'll probably confirm that with the contractor. Listen, that was the discussion last year. I can't remember what the conclusion of it was.
Okay.
Also covered were the financial report, street closures for the Filipino Heritage Month Parade, concrete work around the pool deck to be completed prior to the pool opening, and lot rezoning. Plus one more thing before we go. Congratulations to NECTV board member Don Wamsley on his imminent retirement from Neepawa Settlement Services. There will be a come and go on May 16th from 2 to 4 at the Settlement Services office to wish him well and to meet the new executive director. If you have comments, questions, or topics that NECTV can help clarify or expand on, please contact us at 204-476-2639 or by email at nectvnews@gmail.com. Thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you next time.